So pre-Bitcoin, and what got me into Bitcoin was I was very into developers, and I did a lot of developer acquisition at Sun Microsystems, getting mobile developers to write to Java and JVMs, particularly on the mobile devices. And after having left that, I launched an agency to help all the big tech companies do developer acquisition. And one of the things, that I found really interesting was summarizing it into, at a simple level, 4 different elements that you needed to do to appeal to developers. You could either pay them, so money. You could either give them distribution, so you have a large audience base and that you provide an open API, they will then get access to your customer base. So distribution. And then the other one was visibility and marketing. So I can then promote you. If you work with me and do a partnership, I can promote you and I can give you access to, a whole bunch of VCs and a whole bunch of media that allows you to get your presence out there. And then the last element was documentation and tooling. How quick and how difficult is it for me to learn this new tool set or these new set of products? How well is it to document? How streamlined is it, etc.? And so I found that was something, and in all of the roads, and it varied then by geography. Europe was more tooling focused. Asia, I'd say, was a bit more money focused, and then the US developers were more skewed towards marketing and distribution and visibility, right? So it was just interesting to see that journey. And so intrigued to see how you did that.
Well, I mean, I think that the other element, which you haven't talked about too much about Fluence, but the economic model for people to put, you mentioned all the tools and services AWS has, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of open source, which they then monetize themselves. Yeah. But on Fluence, and this takes a minute to describe, but if I write some open source code and I upload it to Fluence, you as a host, if you agree to host it, you agree to give me some amount, 5%, 2%, some small amount of the hosting revenue that you charge. So when developer comes along and it's like, I want that database that Tom wrote, and oh, look, Stefan hosts it. I trust his hosting. I'm going to compose it along with these 10 other applications. I'm paying Stefan a hosting fee because he's got all these different things. And this all happens via smart contract. Some of that hosting fee then flows to me, the open source developer. And so what we think that does is will ultimately drive a far richer and faster evolving suite of tools that are for people to use. And so that is how we think the only way you could possibly compete with the global hosting providers is if you have the whole developer community of the world aligned and incented to help. And that's the only shot. And so that is how we've tried to set up this economic model. That's the main thing missing. If you think about my early analogy, it's the Filecoin on top of IPFS, right? And so we're in the process of building that economic incentive, which is frankly the easier part versus the other things that we built. But that's probably a next year phenomenon because we want to get our tooling and other stuff done here better first. So we're ready for the economic incentive bit. But we think that gets also to your point about why will developers use it if it's faster and easier as well, because you have a good suite of products. And then it takes some effort, right? But that kicks in a flywheel at some point.